Please rise. The October 11th, 2023 meeting of Haliburton County Council is now in session. Warden Liz Danielson presiding.
Please be seated. We respectfully acknowledge that the County of Haliburton is located on Treaty 20 Mishi-Saugee territory and in the traditional territory of the Mishi-Saugee and Chippewa nations. We acknowledge a shared presence of Indigenous nations throughout the area and recognize its original inhabitants as the stewards of its lands and waters since time immemorial. Could I have a mover and a seconder to adopt the agenda for today? Councillors Carter and Dayoud.
Moved by Councillor Carter, seconded by Councillor Dayoud. Be it resolved that the October 11th, 2023 Haliburton County Council agenda be approved.
All in favor? That's carried. Is there any notice of pecuniary interest or general nature thereof this morning? Hearing none, could I have a mover and a seconder to adopt the September 27th minutes? Councillors Feary and Rael.
Moved by Councillor Feary, seconded by Councillor Ryle. Be it resolved that the minutes from the September 27th, 2023 meeting of Haliburton County Council be adopted as circulated.
All in favor? That's carried. So we'll move right into delegations. And this morning we have Haliburton Highlands Health Services, represented by Veronica Nelson, Interim President and CEO, and Melanie Clot Wong, Executive Director. So welcome.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
We do have a presentation that we'd love to have up on screen for this morning. If we can. Is that better?
That's better.
That's
There we
good.
go.
Okay. Now I can hear myself too. Great. Thank you. Thank you all. And thank you for putting the presentation up. Hello, warden, counselors, staff, and guests. Thank you for accepting our request for a delegation today. My name is Melanie Clot Wong, and I am the Executive Director of the Haliburton Highlands Health Services Foundation. And I'm here today with Veronica Nelson, Interim President and CEO of Haliburton Highlands Health Services. And from here on, I'm going to mention Haliburton Highland Health Services as HHS. Next slide, please. Our goal today is to provide you with information about HHS and the HHS Foundation and how we work together, what we're working on to optimize healthcare in the county for everyone who lives, works, and plays here, where we need to support and where we need the support of the community and how you can become involved. I now pass it over to Veronica.
Thank you, Melanie, and thank you for welcoming us here today. HHS works with partners. Sorry, next slide. HHS works with partners and are accountable to our community and Haliburton County. We promote wellness and provide access to essential high-quality health services, including primary care, hospital care, inpatient and emergency care, long-term care, end-of-life care, so palliative care, mental health and addictions, and community support services, as well as long-term care at 2 sites. It's for our residents, cottagers, and visitors of Haliburton County and the surrounding areas. And just one thing to note, we do all know we have 20,000 residents, plus or minus, and we do have a tripling of our seasonal residents and cottagers in the summer. Next slide. So here is a list of some of the services that HHS provides in Haliburton County. Some of those services are at a site, for example, Haliburton site, Minden site, or throughout the county or within people's homes. We do also provide transportation services, and that moves us outside of the county. So next slide, please.
Thank you. Ontario hospitals are public, not-for-profit organizations managed by volunteer boards of directors. Hospitals receive provincial funding limited to cover operating expenses and nominal contributions towards minor medical equipment. Hospital boards have complex jobs, including upholding standards of safe, quality care, overseeing the finances of a multi-million-dollar organization and setting the strategic and master plans. So foundations were created to take the pressure off hospital services to fundraise for needs not covered by the Ontario government. Next slide, please. The HHS Foundation is a foundation for the health of the Highlands. We are a separate corporation and incorporated registered Canadian charity with a dedicated volunteer board of directors, and we do not provide funding for operations of HHS. Our mission is to financially support the hospital and healthcare facilities in Haliburton County for capital projects and equipment, education programs, and community support services. Next slide, please. We take our responsibility very seriously. We are accountable to those who support healthcare efforts through the foundation and to all regulating bodies to ensure accurate and timely reporting. Myself and our team approach fundraising with integrity, honesty, truthfulness, and adherence to the absolute obligation to safeguard the public trust. We follow ethical guidelines set out by our fundraising organization and association. The board and staff are also available to answer questions and listen to feedback. If you have questions, please ask. Next slide. This is the board of directors as it is now, and it is a dedicated group who serve the community with a deep commitment to healthcare and healthcare longevity. Their skill sets include knowledge of local businesses and activities, fundraising, project management, financial acumen with a mix of cottagers, full-time, part-time residents, retired and working folks, and those who reside in diverse geographical areas of the county. We are looking for new members at this time as well. Next slide, please. The foundation has 4 annual fundraisers, and we also receive gifts through memorials, service groups, grateful patients, individuals, and corporations. On average, the foundation transfers $500,000 a year to HHS for upgrades and new equipment. For example, the nurse call bell system, which was recently funded, was done over 2 years, raising over $400,000 through annual campaigns. We know there's a lot of support for healthcare in the county. However, we haven't seen the influx of donations for healthcare here, as you may see in larger centers. People who live here part-time consider giving about 30% to where they cottage versus their home location. And so we're at a time when we need to open up avenues again to raise larger sums for bigger goals and objectives. Next slide. We were founded in 1996 to advance of the building of the 2 hospital sites. Over $6 million was raised between 1996 and 2007 for the buildings. The County of Haliburton contributed over $280,000 in 1997, and we are grateful for that. The townships collectively contributed almost $50,000 as well. Typically, foundations make yearly requests and larger requests at the time of growth and expansion to their respective municipalities. This foundation has been able to raise the funds needed to support the purchase of equipment upgrades through yearly campaigns and community support until now. And at that, I will pass it back to Veronica to talk about why we are in need of more funding.
Thank you. Next slide. So HHS is very grateful to the foundation and to the county and municipalities for all the contributions that we've been able to provide and optimize health and well-being in Haliburton County. We know that state-of-the-art equipment is essential to our future growth here. Our goal is to expand services locally by adding CT scan and CT mammography, which are both vital tools to diagnose many conditions from trauma, pain, strokes, and cancer. There's a desperate need for these services in our area, and we know that these services will keep healthcare local. We've begun our master planning process to look at where programs and services need to be in our near future, 5 years, and our long-term future, 20 years. We do know that both of these services are included in this planning process. So we're definitely under pressure to meet our doctor expectations. Our EMS is under pressure to keep the ambulances in our county and not take them out of county. And we need these 2 services locally to be able to do that. So next slide, please. So here you're looking at axial slice of a CT scan with somebody that has hit their head, and the white part in the middle is a bleed. That's active bleeding. This is called a subdural hematoma. And this can happen from perhaps a resident that lives at one of our long-term care homes that falls and hits their head, or it could come as a result of an accident, motor vehicle accident, or somebody horseback riding or ATVing. This is a common incident that happens when somebody hits their head. Without CT imaging, these patients travel over an hour to Lindsay or Peterborough to have their scan, and then their disposition is determined at the results of the scan. And it could be to come back here for care to Haliburton County, or to go on to a tertiary center outside of the county much further. CT scan diagnoses a lot of other things. This is just one example. So next slide, please. One other thing we're looking to add services for is CT mammography. So most people are familiar with mammography. CT mammography actually is a similar test, similar pain. And it treats the breast like a loaf of bread and takes slices of the breast. So this is specifically helpful for those that have dense breasts. And we know that screening is occurring after the age of 50, but there are new studies out and recommendations, and I believe it's been adopted in the States and should be coming here to Ontario to start screening at the age of 40. We also know that because of COVID, many centers were mandated to shut down and to stop screening because of the outbreak, the pandemic. So we are still in a catch-up phase for this. People are traveling far to get both of these services. Next slide, please. So these two slides may be difficult to see, but right in the middle, there is actually a green star and an outline of the county. That green star is the site for the CT scanner that is coming, and all of the other blue stars are the closest CT scanners to the county. Right now, there isn't one in our county. Next slide. And this is a similar slide. The pink or red stars are those that have mammography units, and you can see the green star is where our mammography unit will go. People are traveling well over an hour to get these services, or they're not getting the services. Next slide. So I wanted to share a thumbs up here. The top one is a picture of a hand. It's pretty obvious. You can see the thumbs up. The picture below is an ultrasound of a baby with their thumb up. You can see that head is on the left, the circle, and the arm is to the right with the thumbs up, if you can kind of use your imagination. Thumbs up. We want everyone to benefit, and everyone in our county deserves care locally at the minimum standard. And that is having access to CT and mammography locally. Next slide. There is a positive economic influence. We know that having people relocate to our county, one of the first questions they ask is about the healthcare system. We also know that some of those that we're trying to have relocate to the county are physicians, and their first question is, do you have CT? And many of them turn their heads and don't decide to relocate here because we don't have that digital tool that is really a necessity in primary care and emergency medicine. Next slide. And this picture here was taken of the helicopter just leaving right outside my office. The impact to have CT scan locally will reduce $200,000 in costs for EMS traveling outside of the county and over 300 trips. And that doesn't include those patients that are helicoptered out. So we do know that for faster, reliable diagnosis and to keep healthcare local, to recruit and retain our physicians and our nursing staff and allied health staff, and to decrease the strain of ambulances, we really do need these services locally. And thank you for support getting approval for these services. Next slide. This is the path, the timeline for the equipment for CT and CT mammography. The plan is to have them live before the next summer. So before summer 2024, we're at about 75 to 80% complete design detail, and that is going to the ministry this month. And then we'll be able to go to RFP for construction. Thank you, Melanie. Not next slide.
Thanks, Veronica. Yeah, stay on this slide for one moment. I think I also want to mention that Veronica has been working on this for many, many years before it came to us. and the opportunity to put the application in came forward last December, and the application was put in, and we thank you for your support of that. And so I'm very grateful to have Veronica's expertise on this project, and be able to ask her the questions about what's happening, and it's a very exciting time. So the big question is around the finances and how much this is going to cost. So the next slide, if you can go to it, is a little bit of sticker shock. So I don't know if it's a little bit hard to read there. The cost of this project is significantly more than we have raised in recent years. So this is the breakdown of funds needed to bring diagnostic imaging to the next level and provide the care required in the county. As shown here, there are construction costs, as Veronica said, those are in the works to begin in the next few months. Equipment costs, and with adding new and upgrading essential diagnostic equipment, the funds needed come in over over $4 million. The foundation typically raises $700,000 to $800,000 a year, which covers general replacement of aging equipment and upgrades. This project is a big undertaking and one that has such a profound effect on the well-being of Highlanders. We also don't want to take years and years to raise the funds. They need these funds now, and the plan is in motion. The HHS Foundation Board of Directors is dedicated to doing everything possible to bring these services to the community in the county. Our healthcare needs us and needs our support now. Next slide, please. Today, the HHS Foundation respectfully requests financial support from the County of Haliburton in the amount of $1 million to turn this project into a reality. This investment will not only enhance our healthcare infrastructure, but also improve the overall quality of life for our communities. The one thing I hear over and over is we need this. We are asking you today for your support to optimize healthcare in Haliburton County. When you think of the economic impact of this addition, keeping people local, spending money here instead of out of the county when traveling for these nerve-wracking appointments, building back our healthcare system after such a tumultuous past 4 years, and optimizing conditions for doctors and nurse practitioners, this is essential. We thank you for considering this request. We are passionate about this project and truly believe it will have a positive impact on our community. Your support will make a significant difference, and we are hopeful for your favorable consideration, and we are happy to answer any questions you might have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, ladies. And I'm sure that we all recognize the importance of acquiring a CT scanner. I'm wondering about the timing of when you would need the funds that you're requesting from the county.
Yeah, so they're starting to break, well, I could say break ground, but it's not really that. It's the building already exists. So costs are happening now. So we will be looking at wanting the funds in the next year. If we have been realistic with HHS that if we aren't able to get it right away, then loans will have to happen, but we are looking for the funds in the next year.
So I would look to members of council for questions. Councillor Dayu, then Councillor Fury.
Yeah, good. Thanks very much. My question is a little bit of an aside, so I hope you'll bear with me. What about your staffing plans, technicians? Presumably that's a new hire. Would it be 24 hours a day? I mean, could you just tell me a little bit about your staffing plans?
Yes, thank you for the question. For mammography, typically what we're planning is 5 days a week. 8 to 4-ish during the day. We do have MRTs, medical radiation technologists, that are interested in doing that modality. So they're already starting to take some courses and learn. So that's in progress. For CT scan, we do already have a posting out to start that. We will be partnering with Ross Memorial to set it up with policies and procedures. And then we will be recruiting for staff. That service will be Monday to Friday days, 8-hour days, so 8 to 4, something like that, with on-call. And that's typically how new services start, so on-call. What we are planning is that as our MRTs are replaced with new staff, that they're qualified to do CT scanning and X-ray. So it will be whoever's on staff will be able to do those types of procedures. Thank you.
Councillor Fury.
Well, it sounds like you've answered part of it. So the person that operates the CT scan is not the same person that operates the, I'm going to say this wrong, mammography. Is that right?
It can be. For example, in my past life, I've done both.
Okay, so that person could be, the facilities are close enough, they could do both then. Well, I'm
Yeah.
going to make a suggestion here. When we funded the original hospitals in Haliburton and Minden, we made a commitment. So how much is 1%, Mike, of the tax base?
Through you, Warden Danielson, it's about a little more than 200,000.
Okay, so if we committed 1% for 5 years, it's already built in after the first year. That would raise the $500,000 and wouldn't increase the taxes any more than 1%. And that's how we did it before. Now, I know they're asking for $1 million, so that would be 2%.
I think the 200,000 or so would be a 1% increase in the first year. And it
Okay.
would stay in the budget, and after 5 years, that would have the full $1 million covered.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. If you did 2%, you'd be 2.5 years. That
So
seems
my
like
question would-
not a big increase, and at the same time, something that's needed for all county taxpayers. And we're going to save that on the ambulance on the other end.
My question would be, how would that, if it was funded that way, how would that impact your process?
We would seek to get some lending upfront to front the costs.
Go ahead, Mike.
If I might, the Director of Corporate Services and I have had a brief conversation. We haven't looked at it in detail, but we could also look at whether we have some capacity in our reserves to upfront the money and then pay that money back to our reserves over a period of 5 years. But I can't say definitively at this point that we can do that, because we really haven't looked at it in enough detail, but I think that might be a possibility.
So the impact would be no greater on the taxpayer.
No change to the taxpayer. We would forward the money and then pay that back to the reserve over another 4 years after this year.
Questions or comments from other members of council? Councillor Carter.
Well, I think we need to do the math on all this. I mean, you know, if you're open from 8 to 4, you know, that's 40 hours a week out of 168. So, you know, not all of it would be covered in terms of a relief on our EMS. So I think we need to do all the math here, and including seeing what else is in the budget. I know this is an extremely important thing, but we have to see what our tax increase will be. You know, we can say it's only 1% or only 2%, but if that's on top of 5 or 6 or 7 already, then it gets to be a bit more difficult. So I think this is something we take into the budget process and figure out how we can do it.
Ms. Nelson.
Just to clarify, the 8 hours a day, 5 days a week is for booked appointments. However, it is available 24/7 for emergencies. Staff will be there. The staff on site will be doing that.
Councillor McKechnie. And then Councillor Fury.
I really believe that we should get them the money as soon as possible. This is an important thing for every person who lives in Haliburton County. And just hopefully you won't have to use it, but if you do have to use it or a family member, we spend so much money. This is really important to me, and it's going to save us money in the long run. And I just like the process that Mike was talking about, how we're going to pay it back. That seems to work for me, but I'm only one vote. But I think that we should get the money to them as soon as possible to make sure this thing is up and running by, did you say May 24?
Before the summer 24.
Thank you.
Other comments or questions? Councillor Ryle.
In the original one, if I understood Councillor Ferry properly, there was some participation on the part of the individual municipalities or townships that were in place at that time. I'm wondering, is that something that we could entertain, possibly looking at our own townships to see if there was any possibility to contribute there? Again, only a suggestion.
Well, and part of my response is that we contribute to whatever comes out of the county's coffers, and so we would be contributing. Councillor Fury.
Well, to Councillor Ryle's point, he's right, but do we want to start going back to townships? Like Dyser's paying the largest share here, and I don't mind doing that. And I hear Councillor Carter's concern about budget, but you know, I look at the library budget, 1.4 million, higher per capita than anywhere in the province that I can find. There are ways of saving money here and being more efficient. So I think that we can find the 2%. And I'm sure if I'm working with him, we will. And I just think that if we stall it 4 or 5 months and they don't get it, and I happen to know there's some fairly big private people that are prepared to give here, I think everybody sees the importance, and it doesn't matter whether your kid falls and hits his head in Kinmount or Highlands East or where they go, and they come here and they don't need to go on. That's a huge issue now because they're being trucked to Peterborough or Lindsay. So it's not going to save everything, but if it saves some of those trips and saves lives, hey, healthcare is most important. I am in favor of doing it now.
I have to say that I agree with Councillors McKechnie and Fury that the sooner that we can come to a resolution on this, the better. I would like to see us give our CAO and Director of Corporate Services an opportunity to have a clearer response for us on how this can be financed and what the impact would be. So I think we could likely defer our decision until our next meeting, until we have that information available to us, if that sounds reasonable to members of council.
Yeah.
And in the meanwhile, I would really like to thank you. You know, there's absolutely no question the level of importance that this decision has to all of us in the county, and will certainly help to impact some of the challenges that we're experiencing right now. So thank you to you both.
Thank you.
And if I could have a mover and a
Thank you.
seconder to receive the delegation, please. Councillors Rael and Dayu.
So I've added a little to the, if that's.
It's absolutely fine.
So I have, what I drafted is, moved by Councillor Ryle, seconded by Councillor Dayu. The Haliburton County Council receives for information the delegation. Sorry, moved by Councillor Ryle, seconded by Councillor Dayu. Be it resolved that Haliburton County Council receives for information the delegation from Veronica Nelson and Melanie Clott of HHS, and that the request for a $1 million contribution from the County of Haliburton, and that staff be directed to prepare a staff report detailing how the request for a $1 million contribution from the County of Haliburton can be accommodated.
All in favor? That's carried. Thank you so much. Next we'll move into a public meeting portion of our session. This is a public meeting held by County Council under Section 17 and 22 of the Planning Act. This public meeting is declared open to consider a proposed county official plan amendment. I will ask the Director of Planning to please explain the proposed application and confirm the method of notice.
Thank you, Madam Warren, to the rest of council. So the amendment actually introduces or clarifies existing wording within the county official plan that deals with secondary dwellings. The province last year was through their efforts to improve the housing stock throughout Ontario introduced new regulations to allow for additional residential units in all our settlement areas. And that was changes that were done through the Planning Act. And since then, municipalities around the province have been clarifying the language in their OPs. And so the county's no different. We looked at staff looked at the existing policies and found that it was a very easy fix to actually delete the word second or secondary and just change it with additional residential units. So we're being consistent with the direction from the province by initiating this amendment, and how we provided public notice of this proposed change is given that it's affects the entire county. The means of advertising in local papers to give the public sufficient time to react to that amendment. And also we send the actual notice of the public meeting to all the agencies and interested parties. And that would include, in this case, our First Nations community. So through the circulation, we did receive some feedback, and some members of the public did respond to the advertisements in the paper, and they were given further documentation that we had compiled on the subject. So those were more or less the three means of providing information that that County Council was hosting this public meeting today. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone wish to speak to the proposed amendment to the county official plan? If so, please identify yourself for the record. Bear with me, I have to call this question 2 more times. Does anyone wish to speak to the proposed amendment to the county official plan? If so, please identify yourself for the record. And one more time, does anyone wish to speak to the proposed amendment to the county official plan? If so, please identify yourself for the record. Hearing none, has the county received any written comments?
Yes, Your Warden, to the rest of council, there was a number of comments received. Firstly, the school board has no concerns. Dysart responded with comments saying that they were generally supportive of replacing the words in the county official plan, and that they were pursuing a similar amendment with their document. Hiawatha First Nation commented that they had no questions or concerns at this time, and MTO is supportive of the proposed amendment. And as I mentioned, a couple of members of the public submitted some emails asking to be notified of the public meeting. So those documents were sent to them well in advance of the public meeting. And they also requested to have notice of the decision. So that's been noted to the clerk's department. And at a subsequent meeting, when a decision is rendered, a notice will go out again to the agencies and interested parties, as well as the members of public who requested that. So in terms of next steps, if county council doesn't have any questions, we will proceed with analyzing the comments that we did receive, and then providing a report at a later date.
Do members of council have any questions? Councillor Carter.
So every time you read this, there's always new gems that come out, so this may have been asked and answered before, but when in the other parts of the official plan, particularly in the definition, did you put in a definition for urban? Because in here, it often refers to an urban lot, which, it's generally not a word that is used in our area.
Thank you, Matt Warren, to the rest of council. So one of the unique things about the county official plan is it doesn't have a dedicated definition section. So typically what we try to do is sneak the word urban into the first part of that policy. So I will revisit that. I know that was a suggestion that was made by the Highlands East Count planner. And we did attempt to massage the wording a bit to reflect the discussion between, or the distinction between urban settlement areas as well as rural settlement areas. So I'll certainly revisit that for the next report.
Go ahead.
And further, so by reading this, this mostly affects Minden. Because we're the only urban area that has both water and sewer. And Dysart would be affected, I guess, because they have sewer, and then if you can prove you have water, then you would be affected. So I guess I just want to make clear, because there's obviously this is planning speak, and it's it's not necessarily totally clear to the reader, is that you can have add on a second residence, whether it's within the building or it's in new construction and so on and so forth, but you still have things such as lot coverage and setbacks and all things like this. It's not just an absolute free-for-all. Just to clarify.
Thank you, Madam Warren, to the rest of the council. That is true. So we're just sort of the tip of the iceberg, shall we say, in terms of the policy and regulatory change that will result. As I mentioned, once this policy change is approved here, the local or the area municipalities can revisit their official plan, change their policies. And then there's a third component to that, which would be the area municipal zoning regulations. So there's, if you want to say, there's three opportunities for councils to look at how these changes will be introduced to their own communities. And the big, to your point, the big review will happen at the zoning stage, so that as you're looking at allowing for more residential units, you're sensitive to how they will fit on lots, for example, setbacks and so on and so forth. Parking, for example, which is a zoning bylaw regulation, and how that will all fit together. I will comment on, you mentioned about it affecting Minden Hills more than others. Through the discussion with the area municipal planners, we did try to, shall we say, Highlandize this policy insofar as we're allowing for additional residential units to potentially occur in partially serviced or non-serviced areas of the county. But it would be more, and again, this will be borne out more in your local official plan policies and regulations, but it'd be allowing these units where it can be demonstrated that there's not going to be any hydrological interference by drawing too much water or putting too much septic back into the ground. So again, that was a request made by the area planners, and we tried to accommodate that.
Any other questions? Councillor Ryle?
First off, thank you, Steve. That was really awesome information. But again, we've got to remember that although Minden is the largest, we do have Cardiff in the Far East. So that's also an issue for us. So thank you very much for considering that.
Any other questions? If the public wishes further information, please forward your request for information with your name, address, and phone number by mail or email to the County of Haliburton's Planning Department. And if there are no further questions, this completes the public meeting process. I will now declare this public meeting closed. The amendment will be brought forward for a decision at a later date. And if I could have a mover and a seconder to receive the planning report, please. Councilors McKechnie and Carter.
Moved by Councillor McKechnie, seconded by Councillor Carter. Be it resolved that Haliburton County Council received the October 11th, 2023 planning report entitled Public Meeting County Official Plan Amendment, OPA number 1, Additional Residential Units for Information, and that Haliburton County Council directs staff to review comments provided to County Council as part of the circulation processes and the public meeting held under the Planning Act in order to determine the merits of proposed county official plan amendment.
All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is the Planning Department's update for October.
Thank you, Madam Warren, to Arresta Council. So this is our standard update. Things are moving along swimmingly this fall, so that's exciting. With that, I can answer any questions with the notes that are made.
Any questions for this rather concise report? Hearing none, could I have a mover and a seconder to receive the planning report? Councillor Sphiri, or did you have a question, Councillor Sphiri?
Yes, I did. I'd just like to report, since Dysart is the outlayer here, that we have advised 12 people on violences in 1 month with our feet on the ground, and things are going very well. We've diverted some issues and educated some people, and they're doing what we're asking. And other than the 2 tree cutting bylaws, which Rogers has done, I think we're moving right along. So we are trying to keep pace with you guys. Thank you.
Good news, thank you. So a mover and a seconder to receive the planning report. Councillors Burton and Ryle.
Moved by Councillor Burton, seconded by Councillor Ryle. Be it resolved that Haliburton County Council received the planning report PLN 55-2023 entitled Planning Department Update for September 2023 for information.
All in favor? That's carried. I'm assuming there's no forest conservation report, so we'll move on to the shoreline preservation report.
Yes, thank you, Madam Warren, to Arresta Council. So this is our first 6-month review of the program. As you recall, the bylaw came into effect April 1st of this year, and early on, it was the enforcement of this bylaw was internalized by the planning department. And as of July, we were successful in hiring our first bylaw enforcement compliance officer, and bringing him up to speed and getting his himself out in the field. It was a very successful summer in that regard. There was a lot of public interest in terms of inquiries, and we spent a fair bit of our time out on the phone and by email communicating what was expected of property owners around the shorelines here in the county. And we offered to engage property owners right at the water line and help them with their shoreline projects. So it was a very successful summer in that regard. With regards to permits, we did have several permits that were issued, and typically it was after the fact where we were informed of some activities, and then we went out and sure enough, the project had started. It didn't comply or didn't meet the exemption requirements of the bylaw. So we worked with the contractor and property owners to sort of massage the projects back to something that was more reasonable. And that, again, was very successful in that regard. And that avoided us actually laying tickets and any further prosecutions. There are a couple severe ones out there that we're hoping will ultimately be brought back into compliance with the bylaw, but we'll sort of audit those over the next 6 months, because once they're discovered, we do have 6 months to sort of work with property owners and contractors to get compliance in the end. So with that, happy to answer any questions on this report.
Questions from council? Councillor Dayu?
Thanks very much, Steve. Would you just remind me, because my mind was reading at the same time you were speaking, how many permits were you able to go in and help massage the project so it would come into compliance? And more or less, what would be the statistic on that? Is it like 5% or 10% of the overall number of cases?
So I'm to date, because we're still working on a few to issue permits. I would say in terms of issuing stop work orders and then getting permits applied for, there's been about 5 that we're either issued permits for or still in the throes of issuing those right now. So statistically, it's hard to compare to that, because a lot of the sort of the phone work, email work, and chatting at the shoreline has resulted in, I'm going to say, about 10 exemptions, which is to say that the people were approaching us that would require permits. And we were able to say, oh, if you adjust your project this way, we can issue an exemption letter. So we've done that as well. So that would be about 10, maybe 12 that we've been able to issue exemptions. If that helps.
Go ahead.
Yeah, it does help. Thank you. And I think the overall statistic that, I'll be so curious to see in 1 to 5 years is, because of this process, how many chunks of shoreline have we been able to deter from becoming something else, something that would be detrimental to lake health? Because there are a few different ways, it sounds, that you're going to be able to arrive at that number that you've been able to help protect. And I'll just be so curious to see what the number is as we go ahead.
Councillor Rao?
Just to follow up on that, Steve. The type of stuff that you're also, I'm not sure preventing from happening is the correct term, but you're obviously protecting our shores, and that's what's really this is all about. In a future report, a little bit further down the road, can you give us a sample of the kind of magnitude that you've been able to defer? In the sense of, without this bylaw, we could have had some more serious challenges in this particular area, without getting into the weeds and micro detail, because it would be nice to know and let the public know that this bylaw is actually producing good things for our lakes.
Certainly, and would happy to do that. One of the things, just to aid council's consideration in it, is that every time we have a phone call, email exchange, and actually visit the site, that is a deterrent. So when you see that, oh, we're not issuing a lot of permits, but we're issuing a lot of exemptions, we're actually on the ground ensuring the shorelines are protected, because we're establishing compliance without even the need of issuing permits, or in the case of retroactive work, issuing stop work orders and then other permits to restore the shoreline. So
Go ahead.
So, but even with that, what you're basically saying is you took a bad thing that could have been bad, and working with the client, you have made it to the point where obviously people change things. So that's going to happen. But you've put it back into a position where we can all live with results. I think that's important, even though a permit was not issued. A potential catastrophe is the wrong word, but a deterrent has been avoided. And I think we need to be able to toot our horn a bit on that, because it's your hard work that's doing this, and I think we need to know, and the public needs to know, that it's not being wasted.
Any other questions or comments? Could I have a mover and a seconder then to receive the shoreline preservation report? Councillors Carter and Shell.
Moved by Councillor Carter, seconded by Councillor Shell. Be it resolved that Haliburton County Council received the planning report PLN 53-23 entitled Shoreline Preservation Bylaw 4169 6-month activity report for information.
All in favor? That's carried. Thank you, sir. Next up is Public Works. Morning, Sil.
I just want to say for the record, he never dresses like this on an everyday. This is a special. Specialty.
Well done, Sil. So your first report is on the supply of a loader.
Actually, or no, I think I'll take that one if that's okay.
Okay,
When we put out the request or proposal for the supply of a loader, we requested that an automatic greasing attachment or an automatic greaser attachment be included in the quote. When we received the quote, the amount was listed as a line item, but the total wasn't carried forward, or the additional amount wasn't carried forward into the total. We brought a report to council with a very specific purchase price in it. When we followed up to make the order, after receiving council approval, we uncovered the error, or they uncovered the error. And so they have asked that this be, or staff are asking that this be amended with the new purchase price of $316,790.79 plus applicable taxes. This is
good to
still,
see that it's still within budget.
it's still within budget and the fleet plan that council has reviewed very recently.
Questions, Councillor Carter? Okay, if are there any questions? Could I then have a mover and a seconder to authorize the acquisition? Councillors Carter and Burton.
Moved by Councillor Carter, seconded by Councillor Burton, be it resolved that Haliburton County Council authorize the revised purchase price of $316,790.79 plus applicable taxes for the supply of a loader from Toromont Cat.
All in favor? That's carried. And next is the status report for October.
Yes, good morning, Warden Danielson and members of council. As you can see, we have our updated October status report. I'd just like to outline a few items within the reports, if I may. We have a few outstanding repairs on our 22 structures, just actually on one structure, and that will be in the next couple of weeks. We're waiting for better weather to complete those few little repairs, and then the 2022 structures are all cleared and warranty work is all done. Also, our hot mix paving for this year, we have a few outstanding repairs that will hopefully be done in the next couple of weeks, weather depending. Our maintenance report, we have a few items that now have been completed since the creation of this report for council. And our shoulder grading has been completed for this season, for the fall season. And we have received notice that the delivery of our latest pickup truck will be in the next 3 to 4 weeks. So it's been manufactured, now it's being delivered to the dealer and then shortly after to the county.
Any questions on the status report? Councillor Fury.
That's not a question, but I was just looking at the long range forecast. It wouldn't hurt to put a little extra sand up. It looks like a mild winter and that means lots of freezing rain. So I know you've got some up, but if you got a few days, it might not hurt to put a little more up.
Yeah, well, we made sure our sand domes are filled for sure.
Good.
Yeah.
Any other questions or comments? Could I have a mover and a seconder then to receive the report? Councillor McKechnie and Fury.
Moved by Councillor McKechnie, seconded by Councillor Fury, be it resolved that the October 2023 status report on capital projects, operations and approvals and road maintenance be received for information by Haliburton County Council.
All in favor? That's carried. And finally, a report on the supply of 3 pickup trucks.
Yes, thank you. Staff, with pre-approval advance of the 24 budget, sent out request for tender was sent out September 7th and then closed on the 28th. We received 3 proposals, all the same manufacturer, Chevrolet vehicles. The total cost for the 3 pickup trucks was under the approved budget, which was outlined in the 10-year replacement plan.
Any questions on this acquisition? Councillor Fearing?
Are those trucks just for the county, or are they for municipalities as well?
They're just for the county. They're
Okay.
a replacement of.
Because
county.
I think there's some synergy, and later on, we're talking about another service delivery. I think there's some real savings here, but the problem is everybody's got a different colored pickup. And I'm not sure that if we went to one color and we put the sign on the side that it wouldn't do the job. I think it's expensive, like I know that ours are a special paint is a special color, so maybe one way to save going down the road. Anyway,
I think all the township trucks in orange would be good, Murray. I think that's great.
I know where your head is. But anyway, they can have it, can have the insignia on the side, and certainly we've got different colored trucks in Desert now. Nobody's saying they can't see them, so I think it's one way to save money.
Point well taken. Thank you. Any other questions or comments on this report? Could I have a mover and a seconder then to move forward with the acquisition? Councillors Burton and Carter.
Moved by Councillor Burton, seconded by Councillor Carter. Be it resolved that Haliburton County Council receives for information the October 11th, 2023 staff report, supply of 3 pickup trucks. That the current supply, the contract for the supply of 3 pickup trucks, RFT number CTY PW 2023-1-C, be awarded to Curry Chevrolet Buick GMC Limited for the bid amount of $164,601.77 plus applicable taxes. And finally, that a bylaw be presented authorizing staff to enter into agreements for the supply of 3 pickup trucks as outlined in RFT number CTY-PW 2023-1-C.
All in favor? That's carried.
Thank you.
Thanks so
very
much, Sil.
Thank you.
Under administrative reports, we have the correspondence summary. Have there been any requests to support any of the correspondence? Councillor Carter.
I'm just wondering about the one from the township of Montague. In reading it about the freedom of information request. And I don't know about at the county or any other location, but I do know that this process has been a bit abused in our township, and it, you know, it's costing us money. If not, you know, real money, but you know, taking staff away from their, you know,
For hours.
and key staff and I think that this has to be, there needs to be a provincial review on how all this is done, and so I would support us also putting together a letter that would go to the ministry.
I certainly don't disagree. It's something that we did support in Algonquin Highlands. And if there's anyone else here who would agree to second that,
I will second it.
Councillor Fury. I also wanted to, I just can't recall whether or not County Council had written anything in opposition to the strong mayor's powers. I know that we have at the local level. I'd like to hear if there's any thoughts on that. for me, the issuance of the strong mayor's powers to me is just taking a huge step back from democracy in our country. Councillor Dayu.
Yes, I was guiltily sitting here racking my brain, trying to remember what had been said at what level, whether it was Algonquin Highlands or here at county and whether we put anything out. I am very much opposed to strong mayor powers. And I know that Algonquin Highlands is not falling into any category where that poses a risk, but just in principle, I think it should be a no.
Thoughts from other members of council on that? Okay, so I think we have resolution prepared for both of those.
We do.
So I think we have a mover and seconder for both.
Okay.
Councillor Dayu and Councillor Shell for
Right,
the second one.
okay. So moved by Councillor Carter, seconded by Councillor Ferry, be it resolved that Haliburton County Council acknowledges receipt of the September 19th, 2023 correspondence from the Township of Montague calling on the Ministry of Public and Business Service Delivery to review MFIPA and consider the recommendations contained within the second correspondence. And further, that Haliburton County Council agree with the revisions proposed in the September 19th, 2023 correspondence. And finally, that staff be directed to forward a letter indicating council's support.
All in favor? That's carried.
And moved by Councillor Dayu, seconded by Councillor Shell, be it resolved that Haliburton County Council acknowledges receipt of the September 28th, 2023 correspondence from the town of Aurora outlining their opposition to the strong mayor powers, and that council agrees with the recommendations outlined in the resolution, and further that staff be directed to forward a letter indicating council's support.
All in favor? That's carried. Opposed? Okay. So finally, then, could I have a motion to receive the correspondence summary listing? Councillor Carter, seconded by Councillor McKechnie.
Moved by Councillor Carter, seconded by Councillor McKechnie, be it resolved that Haliburton County Council receives for information the correspondence listing for the period September 6th, 2023 to October 2nd, 2023.
All in favor? That's carried. And finally, that brings us to the bylaws. Could I have a mover and a seconder then to approve the bylaw for the acquisition of the pickup trucks? Councillor Carter, seconded by Councillor Burton.
Moved by Councillor Carter, seconded by Councillor Burton, be it resolved that bylaw 4209 being a bylaw to authorize an agreement with Curry Chevrolet Buick Limited for the supply of 3 pickup trucks be considered to be read a first, second, third time, finally passed, and the seal of the corporation be affixed.
All in favor? That's carried. Is there any notice of motion? Hearing none, could I have a mover and a seconder to approve the confirming bylaw? Councillors Dayu and Shell.
Moved by Councillor Dayu, seconded by Councillor Shell, be it resolved that bylaw 4210 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the October 11th, 2023 meeting of Haliburton County Council be considered to be read a first, second, third time, finally passed, and the seal of the corporation be affixed.
All in favor? That's carried. And finally, a motion to adjourn. Could I have a mover and a seconder. Councillor McKechnie, Councillor Shell.
Moved by Councillor McKechnie, seconded by Councillor Shell, be it resolved that the October 11th, 2023 meeting of Haliburton County Council be adjourned.
All in favor? That's carried. Thank you.